one of my all-time heroes. They basically called to tell me my all-time dream had come true. Our destination was Guatemala, and one of the largest archaeological sites and urban centers in the Mayan civilization, Tikal. Alright, David Fletcher held this report. The Mayans are given credit for a lot of the wonders of the ancient Americas, but the reality is they themselves even declared they were not responsible for this stuff. For the monolithic sites like Tikal, Teotihuacan, Capan, and the countless others, they gave the credit to the Olmecs. The Olmecs did it all. They designed the calendar, they designed the architecture, and they had the stories of the gods from the stars. Back to you, dingo guy. When we got to the ancient city of Tikal, we met up with Erich von Däniken, the filmmaker, author, and adventurer extraordinaire. My hero. It was amazing to meet him. It's amazing. Look at that. It's just an amazing sight. So it's all about the gods then, right, Eric?
What gods were honored at this most sacred place in the Maya cosmology?
Hold on now.
An inscription found right here says that some heavenly beings descended once to Tikal.
Crikey.
Did the Mayas expect the return of these visitors from the sky someday?
Looks like it, mate.
Were the pyramids some kind of receiving platforms for the gods?
Well, landing platform, yeah.
Or is this all just a legend?
What?
I believe
maybe
it's true. The Mayas did expect the return of their gods every 52 years.
52?
If true, what did these travelers, these gods, look like?
You're going to tell me, right?
I believe we have an answer right here in Tikal.
Let's check it out. The three of us hiked to the main temple of Tikal.
Could this be the face of a visitor from outer space?
Could be, mate. Looks
I
like
believe that the design surrounding this face is actually the helmet of a spacesuit.
Right, that looks like a helmet. Totally.
Even though the head of this carving has been broken off,
right, even
there are many provocative details to be found.
I didn't know what you said.
You can see what I'm talking about on this drawing of the outline of the stone carving.
Oh, right.
I believe this is an air hose which ends in a box fitted with some kind of air bladder.
That's exactly right. Look
I see more hoses leading either into or out of the large figure's booths.
Right.
Could the ancient Mayans have been trying to depict a visitor from another planet?
That's what it looks
wearing an atmosphere-controlling spacesuit?
That's what it looks like, mate. He was onto something. Spacesuits in the distant past. It's not impossible. We knew Erich von Däniken knew a few things about the Mayans and the Olmecs. We knew he knew about the Mayan calendar in 2012, so we had to ask him. All right, mate, what about the whole Mayan calendar thing? This is like the right place to ask about it, isn't it, right here?
The beginning of a calendar is usually a very important event.
Right.
Our calendar, for example, starts with the birth of Christ.
Jeebus, right.
The Maya calendar was completely different to the calendar we use today. Transposed onto our calendar, the Maya calendar begins on August 11th, 3114 BC.
Right.
The Mayas didn't even exist then, but their calendar starts there. But what happened 3114 BC in Central America?
This is where Erich von Däniken handed me one of the most amazing books I've ever seen.
This is handed down precisely in the book of the Jaguar priest.
It's amazing.
It was the year when the gods arrived.
Right.
Gods, which in my eyes were extraterrestrial.
Right, that's
and
what
whose
I think.
return were expected every 52 years.
Book of the Jaguar Priest had within it some of the most intriguing evidence of space-traveling ETs ending up on Earth there ever was. You can see why the Spaniards felt the need to burn almost every bit of evidence of the Olmec in their history. The people who wrote the Book of the Jaguar Priest seem to have intimate details of men and women far more powerful than the Spanish conquistadors. Quite a threat. I grabbed a full replica copy of the Book of the Jaguar Priest in the Tikal gift shop, and Erich von Däniken showed us around the area a bit more, and eventually he invited us to go with him to Egypt, to the city of Luxor, where he was shooting one of his films. There was no way this adventurer could say no. We were on it, so we were off. David Fletcher Hildreth's report, Egypt. Egypt is one of the most mysterious places on Earth. Much of the wonders within cannot be duplicated by our technologies, even today. The true traditional name of the land is Kemet, and although modern science would have you believe Egypt is only a few thousand years old, the Kemet version of history goes back much further. An example, the Sphinx has water damage that is evidence of its existence before the Ice Age. Another weird thing, pyramids, they have no hieroglyphs inside. Considering the Egyptians love their hieroglyphs, what happened? During the flight to Egypt, Eric, David, and I talked about Eric's theory that DNA manipulation occurred in the past and that these gods from the stars were responsible for creating humans in the form that we are today. That biblical quote, making man in the image of God, well, it's starting to make more sense. He was excited to show us the evidence in Luxor.
Luxor, one of the greatest of all ancient Egyptian cities.
Beautiful, mate.
I believe we find clues here that genetic engineering may have been attempted thousands of years ago.
Yeah, you can kind of see it everywhere. When you think about it.
All over Egypt, you find creatures like these.
Hey, look at
What
it.
is the meaning of it?
It's a lion man. I don't know. It's weird.
Statues showing the combination of human and animal forms are common in the ruins of ancient Egypt.
Right.
Legends say
It was 11,340 years ago that the gods descended from heaven.
Right. That's about right. He knows his stuff. That's about
for
right.
sure.
Yep. Knows the stuff.
These gods created beasts, monsters, mixed creatures of all kinds.
That thing right there. Like this Sphinx fella
There
right
were
here.
bulls with the head of human.
Right,
there
bulls.
were dogs who had wings and the tails of a fish.
Spooks. That's weird. Yeah. Why would they do
were
that?
created by the gods, and the gods were the teacher from heaven, and the teacher from heaven were nothing else than the extraterrestrial.
Huh? They're kind of crazy, I guess, then too.
All what is
Super
left
crazy.
is the question, why should some extraterrestrial civilization do such a thing?
Right,
Good
that's what I'm
question,
thinking.
yeah.
We
Why?
know from our
Seriously, who
little
would?
space knowledge that there are planets which are maybe hotter than the Earth or cooler than the Earth.
Right.
So maybe you need a creature which is intelligent, as we are, but has a different body to resist heat.
Right.
Or to resist the cool, or whatever.
That's why they picked
So they
us.
used our
Super.
existing genetic material.
The hominids.
They mixed it in a new form.
Perfect.
They made what we would call today genetic engineering.
Right.
And voila, we had some of these monsters.
Makes sense. All right, these are the accidents. What a revelation. I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe I got to spend all this time with Eric von Daniken. Truly a mystic, if ever there was one. He was an encyclopedia of ancient astronaut information, as well as information about all sorts of things across the globe. Truly an impressive man. And before we parted, he gave us one more secret. He told us that we had to visit one last place in Egypt for our documentary. So we were off to Mount Sinai. Alright, you know the drill. Mount Sinai. It's one of the most important places for mainstream religions, aka Mount Horeb, Mount Musa, Gabal Musa, and Jabal Musa. That's what they're called. Known for its magical properties, it was here that Moses spoke to a burning bush. Then he spoke to God. Then he came down with spiritual teachings for all to live by. The Torah for all the masses, and Kabbalah for the adept. It's also said that the mountain was important to peoples before Moses, including the people of Kemet. They used to get around and like worship it and stuff, like thousands of people around this mountain. Amazing. When we reached Mount Sinai in the southern portion of the Sinai Peninsula, we were met by a man named Josh Tools, an adventurer like us, but from Israel, who Eric von Daniken arranged for us to meet. Right, mate, so we just spent a few days with Eric von Daniken, and he told us we had to come here to Mount Sinai and meet you, Joshua.
Well, this is good. I like this. I like
Right.
to see this.
Nice to meet you.
Eric von Daniken is a good boy.
That's right,
He's
he
doing
is.
some important works.
Yes, he is.
He sent you to me. That he thinks it's time you climb Mount Sinai.
Oh, you're kidding
That's
me.
why you're here. That's why he sent you to me.
You're
What do you
kidding me,
think?
mate.
I'm
Super.
gonna help you, and you're gonna climb that mountain.
Let's do it.
And I'm gonna keep
All
the
right.
Egyptian military at bay for
I'll
you.
do it.
You got
Serious?
that?
What, the military? Seriously? I'll do it. Let's do
Crikey,
it.
let's do
Get
it.
going.
We only
Hurry
live
up.
once. Here we go. Let's go.
You're gonna love what you find. You're gonna love it. It's great.
So we climbed up to the top of this glorious mountain. It didn't take us too long with our modern gear. It was amazing. It was near the top that and we noticed there was a well-made pathway that started at the bottom. Would have been a lot easier. Must have been the way Moses went. It was obvious a master craftsman from a long time ago carved this out. When we got to the top, we noticed the ground was flat and perfectly carved. Again, master craftsman working on the top of the mountain. No one could see it. It was covered by the rocks of the mountain, but it led to a beautiful garden, and behind the garden we saw an Egyptian temple cut into the mountains, into the rocks. We had no idea how deep. Can't believe it, mate. Are you seeing this? This is
Of course I'm
Egyptian.
seeing it.
Crikey.
It's amazing.
This must have been here before Moses came up.
Definitely.
Crikey, Moses saw this, mate.
He definitely
Moses
saw
saw
this.
this.
He probably found that pathway too, probably at the bottom.
Right.
He probably didn't have to climb up the face of the mountain.
Yeah, right. That guy could have told us. That tools guy could have told us,
Totally.
you know. Could have just told us.
It's probably
He was
part of
probably
the-
laughing the whole way.
It's probably part of the test, though, you know? Like, it's a part of our journey, our initiation into,
Right.
like, adventuredom.
Yeah, whatever.
No?
Why don't we
Okay.
check out this here temple, right?
Good idea.